And it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, Talking Business in Washington, D.C., wrapping up today's U.S. Chamber of Commerce Digital Transformation Summit. And I'm very pleased to have a chance to chat with Temin from the Federal Drive, who wrapped up the program today with a great talk with the Federal Chief Information Officer. Tom, that was a great session. The focus on security is number one point, I'd say, of your session.
I would say the point of security is pretty much top of mind for every federal project now. And the thing that Claire Marcarana pointed out as the federal CIO is that because the Technology Modernization Fund, which is working on the toughest problems across government, is a chance for outside people to preview and, as she's put it, interrogate people before launching projects. That idea of getting cybersecurity built in, programmed in from the start of the project, instead of, as they used to say, bolted on at the end. That's really one of the values I think she was trying to point out.
Absolutely, and customer expectation was really one of the themes that customers expect a very good digital experience provided by a government agency. It could be the Department of the Interior when they go to a national park. How do government agencies, and the private sector is trying to do the same thing, how do you meet that customer expectation? What did you hear today?
Well, the main thing is you talk to the customers first, find out what their requirements are, and then you use techniques like customer-oriented design and journey mapping and all of these modern techniques that are used for customer experience. But you got to think about it before you start programming, and then you have to go incrementally, and you have to go in short scrums, as they put it, in agile development. Small releases, make sure it's good, make sure it works, then go on to the next step, make sure the next step integrates well with the first step, and you do it incrementally instead of grand design in the old way. That's how they're going to get better customer experience.
Sure. And MJ Jackson had the thought about, from DocuSign, about document equity, being fair, making sure everyone has access to the technology, to the forms, and the information that they need. How did that resonate to you?
Well, I think there is pretty good digital equity now. I mean, it's I don't know what they mean by the underserved, because it depends on the region and part of the country. I think there are areas where broadband is still pretty scarce, where people may not have the most up-to-date browsers and so forth. It gets very detailed. I mean, designed for a modern browser, if somebody's got an old machine, then they are not, they don't have that digital equity, so to speak. So I think it's a complicated issue, but again, you've got to figure out what's out there that may be designed to a slightly lower common denominator than you would be for people buying diamonds internationally or something, so that you get a more inclusive kind of experience for the broadband, the equipment, and the knowledge people actually have.
And Representative Derek Kilmer from Washington came in. He was the chairman of the House Select Committee on Technology, and their committee came up with 202 recommendations, of which he said 45 were implemented, 70 are on the way. But it was all about trying to make Congress able to work in a smarter way. What did you take away? You may be more familiar with some of those initiatives.
Yeah, I've known Representative Kilmer for a while. He's been on my show repeatedly. It's the Select Committee on the Modernization of Congress. And they did tireless bipartisan work for a couple of years, coming up with these 240 recommendations. Roughly, as he said, about 40 of them have been adopted. I think the key takeaway today is that the new Republican majority in House, anyhow, has taken his idea, his subcommittee, his select committee's idea of establishing a new subcommittee under the House Administration Committee with the specific purpose of carrying out the rest of the recommendations, so that there's congressional focus on those modernizing ideas. I think that was a very important takeaway.
I thought Allison Barlow from the municipality of St. Petersburg, Florida, had a good thought about you've got to prepare your citizens for the level of technology that you're going to implement. and see what they're comfortable with. And she did different ways of bringing citizens in to talk about initiatives. Why is that so? How does a government agency do that? Figure out what level of technology the public is ready to accept?
That's a really difficult question, and that's where the equity question comes in. And it's not just economic equity, that's one aspect. It could be racial or ethnic or cultural equity, that's another one. In Florida, they've got to be dealing with age equity. And some of the people that retire to Florida, may not be digitally native. They may be more used to a screen instead of a mobile device. So I think you really have to have a comprehensive approach. And that's one reason why the governmentally launched technology may never be the most cutting edge, because it has to be the most inclusive. It has to be universally inclusive, which is not true of a lot of other commercial interests.
Tom, any other key takeaways for you from the event today?
Just keep, as members of the public, stay on your representatives, stay on the federal government, stay on your local government. Make sure they know what you need, and make sure that they're delivering what it is that you feel is needed in your industry, your community, and you'll keep pressing. You'll find they can be more responsive than you might think.
Tom Temin, who is with the Federal Drive. Just tell us a little bit about your career in media covering the federal government.
Well, I've been in media for 45 years. I started in 1970-something, or a long time ago. I have been covering the federal government for 30 years. First 15 in the trade magazine field, and the last 15 in broadcast. And the thing about the federal government is it never gets dull. I've never had a dull day. In fact, after 31 years of covering it, there's a week doesn't go by where there's not some new program or some new agency even that I never heard of. So it's just a wonderful, great puzzle. And I think people need to understand that the workforce of the federal government, whatever you think of Uncle Sam and what's going on in Congress and the politics, you've got a really dedicated workforce there that does care about what they're delivering to people. And I think it's important that people understand that, because they do care in Washington.
Absolutely. So many people working hard for the citizens of our country. I think all the military in Washington, but all of the civilian employees, all members of government. Tom, great to meet you. We look forward to following your reports.
My pleasure. Good meeting you too.
Pleasure. This is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services. We're at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Digital Transformation Summit. Thank you for watching.